Hi, everyone. It's Amy Collins, and this is Free Advice Friday. Every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, I answer your questions. I am here with, there's a lot of you on the line today, but I'm here with Alexander, Sandy, Denise, Jay, Kate, everyone. It's wonderful to see you again. Mike, this may be your first time. Welcome to Free Advice Friday. Sonia, always good to see you. So what's going to happen is this. I'm going to answer your questions. This time I wrote them down because there were a lot this week that came over the email. This is how Free Advice Friday works. If you go to amysadvice.com, you can sign up to join us live on the Zoom webinar, and I will answer your questions right here live. I don't answer any questions I don't know the answer to, but I do tend to come back the next week. I got a doozy last week from one of you guys that I didn't know, so I went away and I've done the research and I am coming back and I have answers. So let's talk a little bit about you and what you need from me today. Those of you who are watching live, whether it's on Facebook, and you'll see me going back and forth between the two screens, guys, but those of you who are watching live or watching here on Zoom, I would love it if you would type your questions into either on Facebook into the Q&A box or on Zoom right into the Q&A box. So let's see, I'm watching live. We're good to go. Let me start with some of the questions that came across this week. I would like to start with, this wonderful woman had her book published by Princeton University, first edition. After several years, it was a very successful book, but after several years, they reverted the rights back to her. She decided to publish the second edition on her own, under her own imprint. It's going really well. So the second edition of her book is now out, but she has repeatedly asked Princeton to take the first edition down from Amazon. She's written Amazon, she's written the distributor, which is IPG, who handles Princeton's books. She's written Princeton. She's like, come on, guys, you declared that book out of print. How come it's still showing up on Amazon? This isn't cool. Well, let me explain what's going on. It's not Princeton University Press's fault. It's not IPG's fault, and it's not even Amazon's fault, and it's certainly not the author's fault. What's happening is this. The first edition of your book still exists. It physically exists. People can still sell used copies. It was published. It was put out into the marketplace. Amazon does not take down any book once it's published. I want to give you an example. I have a lovely client. Her name is Andrea Marcellus, and her new book, The Way In, came out just a week ago. But here's what happened. We decided to create a black and white edition of her book. She took one look at the black and white edition and she said, oh no, this isn't going to work. I need 4-color. And you know what? She was right. It's a much prettier book in 4-color. So we took down the first edition and we put up the second edition. Now that was fine because we were able to explain to KDP/Amazon that it was a mistake, that we put up the wrong edition, that nobody had bought it. There were 0 sales. The book was up for less than 10 minutes. It was only up for a day. Well, okay, it was up for a day, not 10 minutes. I'm prone to exaggeration sometimes. I'm a little fanciful. So the book got up, but it came right back down. And we were able to make the argument to Amazon that they should remove all references to that black and white edition because it was an error. Okay, no harm, no foul. But if that book had been up for a week and Amazon had sold a couple copies, if they'd sold a few copies, there's no recourse. That is how Amazon works. They want every book that's ever existed to be listed on their site. Google Books is the same way. So I'm afraid those of you with the first edition that would like it taken down completely from Amazon, you don't have that option. But what can you do? This is what you can do. If there is an older edition of your book and you have a new edition and you don't want people looking at the old edition and you're very unhappy or not at all interested in promoting the first edition, the fastest and easiest way to get it buried way down low in the list so that nobody can even stumble across it is to work on the promotion and work on the distribution and the sales of your second edition. The more copies of your second edition that you sell and the fewer copies of the first edition that you sell, eventually that first edition will sink lower and lower. The other thing you can do is if by some chance Amazon accidentally links the two books, you can ask them through your Author Central account to unlink them. There's actually a tab in the Connect Us where you can make the request that those two editions be unlinked. And if you don't want the first edition linked to your ebook or your second edition or anything, if you want it to just get shoved way down the line so that nobody can see it, the two things to do are to work on sales for your next edition so that that buoys up to the top. And if necessary, ask Amazon through your Author Central account to unlink the two books. I hope that's helpful to you. I'm trying to answer questions without using author names in case there's some privacy issues, but if you know who you are, if that was not helpful, write in again. I'm happy to answer your question. All right, Sonia is saying, could I answer, she's got a question about writing the perfect bio for a nonfiction author. She's read lots of articles and books and still finds it difficult to come up with the right mix of expertise and being approachable, but she hates sounding too self-promoting. Now, Sonia, you guys may remember, she's on just about every week. She has fantastic questions. I love the way she thinks. She is an attorney who's written a book. And it's a nonfiction book about divorce. I actually use this book quite often in my classes as an example. So if she would like to, write her own bio, she's asking the best way to do it. All right, guys. So here's my question. Do you need to be the one to write your bio? And here's the answer. No. If the question is, how can I as an author get the perfect bio, the perfect balance between promotion and showing my expertise and humility? The answer is very, very simple. Do not write your own bio. If the question is, how can I write the perfect bio? Then you need to go to school. I adore Brian Cohen, B-R-Y-A-N, Brian Cohen, C-O-H-E-N. He teaches a fantastic class on how to write copy. He's really good, but if it were me, and truthfully it is, I've got a book coming out in a few weeks. It's a new book that Daniel Hall and John Rhodes and I wrote. I'm very excited about it. It's called The Best-Selling Author. I'm pretty good at writing copy. I'm very good at self-promotion. I'm pretty good at seeming humble. I'm good at all those things. I did not write my own bio. I hired Brian Cohen. Now, there's other people you can hire. There's Steve Miller. I adore him. If you want his contact information, get a hold of me. There's a lot of great copywriters out there that can do this, and they don't charge a lot of money. I believe Steve actually is running a special in August. So if you want to get a hold of him, he is at keycoremedia.com. keycoremedia.com. Get a hold of him there. He's running a special, but I get nothing for recommending him. What I'm telling you is that I would strongly recommend that you not write your own copy and you not write your own bio. I know you guys are writers and I know you're really good, but there is a special aspect to writing these things. And so I can't begin to tell you how to balance because I don't do it. That's not my expertise, but I would recommend that you pay $100, 100, 150 and get it done for you. If that's not an option, if that's not in your budget, then I would strongly recommend that you go to Brian's website and you take a look at what he has to offer because he also teaches classes on this. Sonia is asking about what happens when you have a second edition of your book and what happens to your reviews. So let us discuss, I'd like to get a little bit in depth about what happens when a new edition of your book comes out, whether it's a revised edition or an expanded edition, or just a regular old second edition that you've put out because your first edition's gotten a little long in the tooth. If you have a new edition of your book coming out and you are concerned because you do not want to lose the reviews that you got from your first edition, you want them to port over and to be copied to your second edition. There's a few things you have to do, Number one, the title, the subtitle, and the author name have to be identical to the first edition. You cannot expect, Amazon will not, for the most part, you can make a few exceptions, but for the most part, Amazon will not copy over reviews from one edition of a book to a new edition of a book if the title has been changed, if the subtitle has been changed. Why? Because Amazon has no way of knowing if it's really the same book. And you could say, well, they could read it. They could find out. They don't have that kind of time. They're not going to do that. So if you want this to be as simple as possible, keep the title, the subtitle, and the author name exactly the same. I know that you called yourself Alan Sharfin, and now you want to be known as A.L. Sharfin. Sorry, be very, very careful when you first start picking your author names and you first start picking your titles, because if you're going to expand them down, you're stuck with them as you do new editions if you want the reviews to port over. Now, if you have 11, 20, let's say you have 20 reviews, that's not a big deal. That's not a lot of reviews. Don't worry about it. You can easily get another 20 reviews. So I'm talking about if you have 50, 60, 80, 90 reviews, then what you want to do is make sure that you keep those in line. Then once you put the second edition out, within a week or so, those reviews will very easily and automatically be copied over to the next edition of your book. Sometimes, I don't know how often, but often enough that I've noticed, sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes they never get copied. So all you have to do is go again to authorcentral.com, log in as an author, make sure you claimed the book to your bio. You go in and you look for books and you make sure that that second edition, that you claimed it, that it's yours, that it's on your page. And once it's there, you just need to email or contact authorcentral.com and ask them to copy the reviews over. It'll happen very quickly. So if it doesn't happen automatically, check to make sure that you have claimed the second edition in your Author Central. You always want to do that. All right, let's see the next question, shall we? Oh, I have people who are asking me what is going on with libraries and ebooks from the major publishers. So I have a little story to tell you. It is July 2019, and 4 or 5 months ago, I'm guessing, give or take, Tor, T-O-R, an imprint of Macmillan, they made an announcement that they were going to run an experiment. They were going to put a 4-month hiatus. They were going to keep new books for the first 4 months of their life out of libraries in ebook form. The library could buy the print books, but they were not going to be allowed to purchase or share ebooks for the first 4 months of any of Tor's new books' life. So when a new book came out in March from Tor, that book would not be available until the end of July. All right, this upset a great many people, especially the librarians, because librarians try very, very hard to be of service to their community. And one of the things that the community wants more than anything is the hot new books, the best-selling books. They want the Michael Crichton and they want the older best-selling books, yes, but they also want the new best-selling books. So when Tor made this announcement, libraries got very, very nervous. And it turns out, as of this week, they were right to get nervous because Macmillan, which owns Tor and is one of the top publishers in the country, Macmillan announced that the experiment was over and that they've now decided they're going to put a 4-month hiatus, moratorium, whatever phrase you want to use, a waiting period on all of Macmillan's ebooks into the library market. Libraries will not be able to purchase and share ebooks for the first 4 months of any of Macmillan's new book life. And I would be extremely surprised if, Random House, and which is owned by Penguin, and if all the rest of them didn't follow suit. Now, I do not know what's going on at Source Books and some of the other top 10 publishers, but there's some independent publishers out there, some big name independent authors and big name independent publishers like Source Books and others that have already gone on record and said, that's not cool. So I'm very pleased that that has happened. But it looks like the big 4, big 5 are going to start swinging for the libraries again. So this is fantastic news for small presses. This is fantastic news for independently published authors, because this may be an opportunity for, if you write sci-fi, Tor being a sci-fi imprint, if you write sci-fi and you've got a fabulous ebook, how cool would it be if you reached out to libraries this next week and say, forget Tor. My book is just as good. Look at my cover. I'll sell you my book for $7 and you can rent it out as many times as you want to people. And you make that offer to 1,000 libraries. How cool would it be if you offered your ebook to libraries at a normal price, and you say to yourself, well, I don't want a library to have my book at $7 or $8 or whatever I'm selling it for on Amazon, because then people won't buy it on Amazon. You're an independent author with a really small readership. If that is your situation, why not sell 1,000 copies of your book to 1,000 different libraries and develop new readership? Why not? I mean, it's not like that 1,000 libraries is going to buy your book now. They're not. They're not even going to spend $1 on your book. So why not approach them? Heck, even sell them your book at $9.99. I don't care. But use this opportunity, this outrage that the libraries have, and why don't you and your author friends get together? You know what? I just had an idea. Why don't I put a mailing together? You guys are watching this live. I think I will put a mailing together of ebooks, independently published ebooks, and we'll pitch it out to libraries. I'm gonna work on that. All right. So if I were you, I would definitely not freak out about this 4-month window. It may actually be really great news for independent publishers and small presses like us. All right. Let's see. So, Stephen, how are you? It's good always to see you. Stephen is saying, what is the process to update Ingram Spark files for minor adjustments? Specifically, he says, is there another fee to make an update? Ingram Spark at the moment, and you guys are going to see me looking down because I need to Google. I have got a code for you that will help save you money. But Ingram Spark at the moment, the policy is, yes, there is, I believe it's $25 to upload a new interior file. Whether your changes are minor or major doesn't matter. If you're going to upload a fresh file to Ingram Spark, whether it's a cover file or an interior, they're going to charge you to upload that file. However, Ingram put a code out. I believe it's called I'm going to find out. Ingram put a code out that for the rest of the year, Ingram Spark uploads are free for small presses. And they have come up with a code, free upload Ingram Spark. Don't you love when I do this kind of stuff live? But I didn't know Stephen was going to ask this, so I love it. Let's see. All right, so the Ingram Spark promo code is Selfpub. It is SELFPUB. Stephen, if you want to upload a new file and you don't want to pay the fee, which is the policy, and it's, they're within their rights to charge for that. But if you want it free between now and the end of the year, you just go put it in, say, yes, I understand that I have to pay for this, but then as you're checking out, it'll ask for a promo code and put in all one word, 7 letters, Selfpub, and that'll get it for you for free. So there you go. For those of you who are watching this on a replay, if you've gone to amysadvice.com, if you've gone to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Amy Collins, if you've done any of those, you will find that link, that information to Ingram Spark and the Selfpub promo code right underneath this video. I would love it if you guys went to amysadvice.com and signed up to join me live. I am here every week. Free Advice Friday is sponsored by Bestseller Builders. Bestseller Builders is a company and a service that John Rhodes and Daniel Hall and I provide to different clients. But I'm here every week at 10 a.m. I do it live on Facebook. I do it here with you on Zoom. I do give preference to the people who have joined me on the webinar. I get their questions answered. But also, if you'd like to email me, amy@newshelves.com, amy@newshelves.com, I will answer the questions that you guys email me over the week. Questions like, can you get your book, your Kindle ebook, into libraries if you've signed up for Kindle Select? I have an answer for that. No, you can't. If Kindle Select, which is a 90-day, it runs for 90 days and then you have to either re-up or you don't re-up, it automatically renews. So if you don't want to do it after 90 days, you have to tell them before the 90 days is up. But if Kindle Select is something you've signed up for, then you're not able to put your Kindle book into libraries, I'm afraid. Amazon will only allow ebooks to be in Kindle Select, which gives them a lot of different marketing lift, including Kindle Unlimited and the free book. And it makes you eligible to maybe be nominated for the Kindle box. There's lots of things that can happen if you're in Kindle Select. But while you're in Kindle Select, your ebook is only available exclusively through Amazon. You are putting all your eggs in that basket. Now, I'm not an enormous fan of doing that long term. There's a lot of authors that Kindle Select makes a great deal of sense for the first 90 days, even the first 180 days. Some of you, not all. I will get into who and why if you'd like. But once that's up, once your 90 days is up, then put your ebook up everywhere else. Put it up on Kobo, put it into Overdrive, get it up into Nook and Barnes and Noble. Make sure that you're at Torino, get everywhere. And once your book is up, I use Draft 2 Digital, Draft the number 2 Digital. There's also Smashwords. They're good too, but I prefer Draft 2 Digital just because they've got that whole inroads into Overdrive. But once you are over, once you've expired your Kindle Select, yes, then you can start getting into the library market, but not until then. All right, Denise, thank you. Denise is wishing me a happy birthday. I'm going to be 52 years old tomorrow, older than dirt. That is very kind of you. Thank you. Stephen is asking, could I describe my book review course? It's not mine, actually, Stephen. The book review course is hosted by Sandra Beckwith. Sandra Beckwith is the one, I love it and I promote it and I talk about it. I don't get anything for that. I just adore her. So if you're talking about the book review course by Sandra Beckwith at buildbookbuzz.com, I can't really describe much about it other than the woman has been in the industry as a journalist, as a publicist. She's an award-winning publicist. She knows her stuff. She knows how to get reviews. And buildbookbuzz.com, if you go there, I am sure she's got a lot of details. I unfortunately do not have them here at the tip of my brain. Let me just check the time. All right, let's see. Again, Stephen, I adore your questions. So you are now, as Stephen is also asking, how to find conferences to speak at. How do you get considered for a spot, and how can we as experts negotiate pay or making an offer from the back of the room? Let me give you my experience. 3 or 4 years ago, a little bit longer, 5 years ago, give or take, I stumbled into an opportunity. I was invited to, for the very first time, to go and speak in public out in Denver, Colorado. By Judith Briles. It was nothing that I had really ever thought about doing. I'd always wanted to. Bethany Brown from the Cadence Group, she had been going down to speak at the Space Coast Writers Guild, and I was, I admired that she was being asked to speak. And so when Judith asked if I would do it, I said sure, and I stumbled into it, and then I got the bug. I wanted to speak. I wanted to teach. Apparently, I love being either in front of a camera or in front of people. Apparently my ego just needs to be fed. And I enjoy teaching and I enjoy sharing. So I got the bug, but nobody knew me. I knew that I knew my stuff. I knew that I knew about Ingram Spark. I knew about what was then called Create Space. I knew what was going on in the industry. This was 2015 or so. Lots was happening with print on demand, enormous changes. I knew my stuff, but nobody else knew that. So this is how I did it. I started by volunteering and offering to write articles on other people's platforms. I eventually built my way up to larger and larger platforms, like the Ingram Spark blog. Eventually, I started real small, little sites that nobody had heard of. That's okay, you gotta start somewhere. But eventually, Joel Friedlander from The Book Designer asked me if I'd like to do a monthly column. Bookworks, adore Bookworks. They asked if I'd like to join in. I eventually started doing things for Ingram Spark, for other companies. It got bigger and bigger. So that gave me a platform. That raised me up out of the myriad of other people who were book industry professionals, and I now had a platform. I also started doing short little videos like this. Now, I wasn't doing Free Advice Friday in 2015. I was doing something else. I did Free Advice Friday for about 2 years in 2012. Back when streaming was still very new, but I put it on hiatus. but I started doing short little videos and putting them up on my YouTube channel. That was another way that I was able to raise my platform. And once I had articles, and once I had videos, and once I had a website, I was able to create a one-page sheet. And I created a one-page sheet with the help of a designer. Let me see if I can find it real quickly. I created a one-page sheet with the help of a designer. I did not design it myself. I know Canva's amazing, but come on, guys. We need to, if you're going to put yourself out there as a professional, you need to use professionally designed asset stuff. All right, so let me show you my screen. So I'm going to share. I'm going to go to that. Do you guys see? This is my speaker sheet right here. I'm a public, and you know, Gwen, her name at the moment, it's Gwen Kennedy now, I believe, or Gwen Moores, but JKS Design in Franklin, Tennessee, outside of Nashville, designed this. She's amazing. And so I created a one sheet. Let me stop sharing now, and so you guys can see my soon to be 52-year-old face. My it's Amy Birthday Eve, the holiest of all nights. Families all over the world will gather and tell stories of Amy Birthday Eve. That is what you have in store for you tonight. But here on Amy Birthday Eve, we're talking about how to become a speaker. So I started on other people's platforms. I started doing short videos. I let people see me and see that I could actually string 11 words together. And then I put a sheet together that I just showed you. And then I Googled. I Googled writers' conferences. I Googled different places where other people I admired were speaking. And I sent them my sheet and I sent them a list of topics. Dear Jane, I long admired your conference. Now, don't say that if it's not true. But if I've been looking at the Writer's Digest conference for a long time and I really admired it, I will find out who's booking the speakers and I'll send them an email and tell them that I'm a big fan of the Writer's Digest and the Writer's Market, and that I teach classes on libraries and I teach classes on finding your readers, and I teach classes on how to do market research and blah, blah, blah. So I give them 4 or 5 ideas and I give them this sheet, and this sheet, you will notice, has a link to my YouTube page. It's got hot links for everything to my website. And I ask them if they'd like me to come and speak. I do not talk about payment. I do not talk about compensation because I'm new, because nobody knows me. And I have to tell you, Writer's Digest did not take me up on my offer the first few years because they've got enough people. They've got big names. They didn't need a newcomer. Now, again, I know my stuff. You know I know my stuff, but they don't know I know my stuff. I have to prove myself to them. So I went to small conferences. I met other people. They started talking. They started introducing me to other conference promoters. I started Googling more. I then had a whole list of small conferences that I'd spoken at, libraries I'd spoken at. At one point there was a video that had been taped from the back of the room. I asked for a copy of it, and things started snowballing from there, and it slowly grew. And 3 years later, I am speaking at the Writer's Digest conference. I am not only speaking at Writer's Digest this August in New York City, but they've actually given me an entire day before the Writer's Digest conference where they're letting me teach an entire masterclass on the business of publishing. Guys, join me. If you're in the New York area in late August, and if you go to writersdigest.com or you email me at amy@newshelves, I'll give you some info. But it happens, but you have to earn your way up there. Whether or not I deserve to be speaking at the Las Vegas Writers Conference, or I'm being flown next March to Scotland to speak for the Scottish Writers Association, or whether or not I deserved to be at London Book Fair, it's awful cool that I get to say I do it. And so don't worry about the people, your competition, the people who are out there doing it, emulate them. Just concentrate on your own goals and you will eventually achieve them. The only time I fall short of my goals is when I'm paying attention to what other people are doing. There's really no need. All right, that was a very long answer to your question, but it's actually one of my passions, so good question. Wendy is saying that you can unselect Kindle Select for those of you who are hearing me, and that it takes 90 days and then you're free. And that yes, so that is the case. If you're with Kindle Select, you have to actually choose to not re-up. It will automatically re-up. And so you do want to do that. And at the moment, At the moment, if you unsubscribe from Kindle Select, you still are in Kindle Unlimited. That may change at any minute. So if you're watching this on my YouTube channel or at amysadvice.com as a replay, please understand that after July 2019, that may no longer be the case. But at the moment, if you have your book in Kindle Unlimited, it will stay in Kindle Unlimited even if you uncheck Kindle Select. All right. Susan is asking, she sent in a question about ISBNs. She received one from Ingram Spark. Susan, I did not see that question. I don't know where you sent it. Can you type it into the box? I would be happy to answer your question about your ISBN, but I didn't see it and I apologize. A second question from Susan, if she has a book on Amazon by one independent publisher, can you use my services? Yes. Absolutely. And you should. So more than half my clients are published by other people. I'm working with authors that are with Macmillan. I work with authors that are published by Amazon, believe it or not. And yes, you can add, I'd be honored. All right, so let's see. Other questions? All right, we've answered all the questions that were emailed me. Susan, I'm so sorry to ask you to retype your question, but I didn't see it and I would love to answer it. Let's see if there's other questions that have come in. I'm also going to check Facebook Live real quick, although I absolutely hate that I've got a sidebar here. I'm looking to the side. You guys get to see my profile. Okay, I am looking for questions on Facebook Live. There may be one here from Thomas. Thomas, how are you? Let me quickly look for that. But in the meantime, somebody's asked another question. I'm going to go back and forth between the two because I do not mind going back and forth between the two, but I want to make sure I have a question. Thomas, I do not see your question. See thread. And now I'm going to mute that and replying to Thomas. This is all going very well, don't you guys think? Yeah. Thomas is asking, hey, I found it. What are the advantages of being published by a university press? I actually know the answer to this. Okay, Thomas, I'm sorry that took so long. Again, guys, I give precedence to those who are joining me live on the webinar. So if you go to amysadvice.com, you can join me free on Zoom. I'm so sorry. I am trying to keep both eyes open. And I appreciate Vicki, you having my back. That was awesome. Vicki Fitch is my new business coach. We've been working together for a couple of weeks. The woman is changing my life. I am so grateful to you, Vicki. Anyway, Thomas, it sounds like you may have an offer from a university press. If you have an offer from a university press, there are a lot of benefits to going that way. But what I'm not sure, and I'm looking now on Facebook, so what I want you to do is to type in this thing. Are you saying, do you want to know if it's better to go with a university press versus a traditional trade publisher, or a university press versus self-publishing? Let me start with the first question. A university press will not have the same breadth, perhaps, of services, that marketing services and money that a large house like Random House might have. But if you have an offer from a university press and you don't have an offer from Random House, Penguin, Macmillan, HarperCollins, run with it, because university presses have an amazing amount of gravitas. They have most of them have terrific reputations. And if you've written a serious book, you've written a book of poetry or a history book, being with a university press will give your book an enormous leg up over being published by a smaller independent press that doesn't have the university heft behind it. It will also give you a great amount of, it'll give you a leg up into the credibility factor in a book buyer's mind at bookstores and libraries over being self-published. Now, I understand and you understand that the university press, their editors may not be any better than yours. And I get that. But still, if you can get the name Cornell or Yale or Northwestern, and you can get your book into one of their presses, There's an enormous amount of credibility that comes along with that you cannot buy, that you cannot borrow. I'm afraid it has to be bestowed with a publishing contract. And if you are, so I'm looking as well to see if there's anything, I know your book's about the Kennedys, but if there's any way that you could just let me know here in Facebook, if the book has an offer from someone else, I would be happy to go even more in depth into that question. All right. Someone is asking about some of the things that you can do to optimize exposure. Let's say if you have media exposure, if you've got a radio interview, an article, or a blog, and how do you optimize sales on that? He was saying that sometimes having a direct offer may not be permitted by, and that's true. I mean, when I write a blog for someone or when I go on a podcast, I am very careful not to sell or promote myself. Attraction, not promotion. Remember, guys, it's attracting people. You do not promote yourself. You simply make yourself as attractive as possible and the right people will find you. But how can you optimize this exposure? So this is some of the things that I do when I am on a podcast or when I'm writing for someone else. I will quite often bring in examples of successes that I've had. Now, Stephen, you've written a book about how to pay for college. So actually saying throughout your blog or throughout the radio interview, and I do this quite often, you guys will hear me on Free Advice Friday tell a very true story. I told one earlier that Andrea Marcellus, an author of mine who I'm helping get published, she's publishing the book herself, took a look at the book and decided she wanted to go from black and white to color. I used the fact that I have a client and that this client, you know, what we went through to tell a quick story. And by doing so, I managed to drop in the fact, you know, I work with authors, I work with clients. In addition, one of the things that I'm absolutely loving, I want to show you guys, Andrea, it's been so great. I have to tell you, Andrea was wearing this amazing, I want to show this to you, this amazing eyeshadow when we met a couple weeks ago. And as a thank you present for some work that I've done for her, she sent me some Marc Jacobs eyeshadow, which I'm wearing today. So Andrea, if you're watching, thank you for that. Nobody else needs to send me stuff. But wow, I got my Marc Jacobs eyeshadow yesterday and I just loved it. So Stephen, you can drop in a lot of stories and make sure that you mention that those stories are in your book. You can drop in advice and personal experience and talk about how things were in your book. You can mention quite often, especially if you're trying to get hired as an expert and if you want to speak, you can talk about how you were speaking at Northwestern University last month and you were doing a podcast and attraction, not promotion. You are always allowed to mention your website. Free Advice Friday, you know, it's sponsored by Bestseller Builders. Go to bestsellerbuilders.com. Free Advice Friday, go to amysadvice.com. So when I'm being interviewed by somebody, I am always allowed to say, listen, guys, if you have any questions about this and I can't answer live on the air, you can always email me at amy@newshelves.com. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just making yourself available. Don't be sleazy, don't push, don't sell, don't borrow, but attraction, not promotion. The other thing you can do if you know you've got a media hit coming up is you can call bookstores and libraries and you can say to them, I'm going to be on the radio in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm going to be promoting this radio and I'm going to be rebroadcasting it on social media and I'm going to promote this because radio now, all these radio and podcast interviews, they're all online. And you can share them on social media and then you can boost your post. You can spend a little bit of money, not a lot, $10, $15, $20 to boost that post out into the world. And you can tell libraries and bookstores that anyone who takes a copy of your book and puts it and agrees to put it on the shelf before this media hit, you will actually include the links to their bookstore or library or whatever in your promotional materials for this podcast or for this blog. So it's a two-step process, but I love contacting stores and libraries before a media hit and telling them that I will mention them in all of my promotions after the media hit, or maybe even during if I can, depending. You can always do a shout out to a bookstore or a library. There's nothing wrong with that. So there are some of my ideas on how you can optimize, maximize some press work. All right, guys, we have 5 minutes left. Let's see if there's any other questions. Let's see, Thomas. Thomas got an offer only from the university press, but he's considering self-publishing with Ingram. Tom, I don't know what the offer is, and so I can't really advise you. Although I'd be happy to hook you up with some people who are very, very good at looking at contracts. Anna Termini at PS Connections, P as in Peter, S as in Sam, Connections. Anna Termini is a fantastic resource. She is an agent consultant, and she does charge for her time, but she will happily review a contract for you. But I don't know what sort of deal they're offering and whether or not it's a better idea for you to go with the university press or self-publish. But I will tell you that there's, in almost all cases, a university press, especially if you've written a history book about the Kennedys, you will get a lot more doors open to you. I love self-publishing. I do self-publish. I get publishing offers from publishers all the time, and I say, no, thank you, I publish myself. But that's because I have a huge platform and because I know I can sell my book myself. I don't believe that's always the case with a history book, so you might want to seriously consider it. But again, I don't know the contract or the offer, so I'm afraid I can't help. I am... oh, Jason, well, welcome. Thank you. I'm glad that that was helpful. Let's see. I just want to check to make sure there's no more questions. I want to make sure I got to everything. I talked about Ingram Spark, media, book review course, buildbookbuzz.com. Sandy Beckwith is amazing. Susan, did you send in the question about an ISBN? She has an ISBN, but I have a blog that mentioned something about registering it. Okay. So if you got an ISBN from Ingram, Ingram actually purchased that ISBN from Bowker. You're in great shape. They are the only ones that are allowed to do this. Nobody else. Don't get a free ISBN from KDP. I'm begging you. But once you get your book, your ISBN from Ingram Spark, after the book is published, one of two things can happen. If you put the book with that ISBN up into the Ingram Spark system, you don't have to do anything else. Ingram will register it. It'll be fine. You'll end up in books in print. But if you take that ISBN and you never use the Ingram Spark system, yes, you should go to myidentifiers.com. Myidentifiers.com. Punch your ISBN in and make sure that you're in books in print. And if not, you will need to actually form an account, claim that ISBN, and register it. But if you're using Ingram Spark for more than just to buy the ISBN, which I believe they're about $80 or $85 from them, if you're using them for more than that, if you're actually uploading the book after, Ingram's got you covered. You're all set. There's nothing to worry about. All right. It is the top of the 45 minutes. I have expanded Free Advice Friday from 30 minutes to 45 minutes because you guys ask amazing questions. I will be back here next Friday. That is not true. Carrie Barnum will be here. Carrie Barnum, my marketing manager, who knows a lot more than I do, will be here next Friday doing Free Advice Friday because I'm going to be at my family reunion in the middle of Vermont. And while I adore you, I would much rather be floating in the middle of Lake Champlain. What can I say? Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Have a terrific weekend. And Carrie Barnum, New Shelves Books and Bestseller Builders will see you back here next Friday for Free Advice Friday.